Hello, everyone. This is Michelle Biggs, CEO of My Best Everyday Coaching and Consulting, and the host of Real Conversations with Michelle. I know it has been a minute. I end up taking a mini hiatus myself. And lo and behold, it was around this very topic that we're going to talk about tonight. For those of you who are new to my platform, let me start off by talking a little bit about that. So this platform was started with the goal of really all of us learning and growing together by having real conversations about real topics, things that many of us have gone through or know someone who has gone through, with the goal that something that is shared, you'll be able to apply it in some shape and form to your situation. So tonight, the topic is the power of no and setting boundaries. And I don't know about you, but lately I have seen many posts from my girlfriends who have indicated the need to just step back from some situations and regrouping, totally shutting down from things. And if I think about myself, just really being busy, busy, busy to the point I needed to just pause. Right. So tonight we're going to be talking about, as I said, the power of no and setting boundaries, which is so important. And I have joining me tonight some very special ladies, some of my girlfriends. And let me just put out a disclaimer, like anything else, right? This is an educational platform, like anything else. Do your homework just to make sure that whatever you take from this conversation, you do your homework and make sure it's going to be right for you. Okay. So without further ado, let me introduce my panel. First up, Lisetta Hurge Putnam. Hey, Soror,
Hey, hey,
how are you?
Michelle. I'm wonderful. It's great to be
Wonderful,
here with you.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and talk about day in the life of Lisetta, about your craziness that you deal with.
It's funny that you're asking me that because before we started the show, we were just having a little backstage chit chat, and one of our other guests that you'll be introducing shortly asked me, "Well, how was your day?" And my response was crazy, like a lot of balls in the air. So that's pretty much my day on a daily basis. So I run. I'm executive director of an organization, Independence House, that works with most of the women and children who have experienced sexual violence or family violence. And
Yeah,
so running that organization, which I've been doing for over 20 years, it takes a lot of ability to be able to figure out where to stop, when to set boundaries, when to say no. So it's
yeah,
crazy. So a day in my life is just juggling. I could go from doing a budget to helping one of my staff solve a problem to doing supervision, and then maybe leaving to go to a board meeting.
yeah. And
So
and then there's your personal life because you're married, got a daughter in
yeah,
college.
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Any other
yeah.
things you're involved in?
Well, as I said, the board, I'm on a board called Jane Doe, and it's a board that it's a coalition that brings together, again, people who work with domestic and sexual violence. I'm very involved with that. I have to say the least crazy part of my life is my family life.
Oh,
Because like you said, my daughter is away at college. She's an adult, so she's self-sufficient at this time. She's in med school. And me and my husband are empty nesters. So this is my calm space, actually, is my home. So
well,
that's
good,
that's the good
good.
side. Yeah.
So you have set the boundary with you keep your sanctity with your family and at home.
Definitely.
Ooh, all
Yes.
right. Thank you, my
Yeah.
dear. Next up, this is my high school and college friend Monique Brown. Hello, Monique.
Hello, Michelle. How are you doing today?
I am good. So let's talk about all that you are engaged in.
Well, I'm recently retired. I used to be a manager in Internal Revenue Service for 34 and a half long years, dealing with people, teaching, etc. I'm getting ready to start a business, tax advisor, with the help of my life coach, Michelle Biggs. And I'm excited about what I'm going to be doing starting next year. I'm a grandmother of two, well, now four, because my son just got married, and bringing the families together, added two more grandchildren. I'm a mother of four, married 35 years. taking care of a lot of different responsibilities now that I'm married. Now that I'm retired. So my life is I'm constantly moving, involved with church, evangelist. I MC, do just a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So my life is really, really busy. And I was listening to Lisetta saying, how was your day crazy? So, once you wake up in the morning and you think about what you have to do, you really have to start setting things aside. So I like
Hmm.
the topic that you brought forward. We've discussed this in the past about me,
Yes.
just the person that you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and
mm,
we'll get into more details later. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think this topic hits home with a lot of us.
hmm
So yeah, we'll get into the nitty-gritty in a few minutes. Next up, I have my sorority sister Kelly, Dr. Kelly, Dr. Kelly Corin
Hello.
Lucci.
Hello.
Hello. How
Hello,
are you?
Silver. I'm
Hey,
wonderful. How are you?
good, good. So tell the people what you're engaged in.
I wear a lot of different hats. Actually, I'm professionally, my 7:30 to 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, and beyond. I work as a crisis counselor. Prior to doing that, I want to mention that I was an administrator, but part of knowing limitations and learning how to set boundaries, which we'll talk more about in a few minutes, was I had to recognize and prioritize. And
hmm
my dad, I lost my mother suddenly to a massive heart attack, and that shook all of us to the core. And I was
Hmm.
really left to lead, to guide, to pull it together, to handle everything. And we knew that my father's health was deteriorating. And one day I just felt God say to me that my dad was going to need me more. And this was when I was serving actually as an assistant principal. And I'm just so glad that I had already started slowing down. So I at least had that pause time where I heard God speak to me and I listened. Because in 2020, shortly after COVID hit, my father really took a turn where
Mm.
he's no longer able to walk. He can really, is very limited use of his hands. And so when I'm not working, which I made the switch professionally. Luckily, I was able to stay in the same building, same school district, and everything, just
Hmm.
with less responsibilities.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but not to say that I'm not working as hard, if not harder, in a different way. Working as a crisis counselor because I'm on go, basically 24/7.
Hmm.
Just because that's how I was raised in a household of two educators, and that's just who I am. I'm committed to serving my students and their families. Um, but with that said, at the end of the day, my father knows he's top priority. Because I was raised with, high expectations, just morals, values, you work, strong work ethic. So my father was falling. He was crawling up, 15 stairs and
Oh
not telling
God.
any of us because he didn't want to pull me from my job. My mother was a retired administrator, so he knew the expectations, and my father had worked in a school as well. So during the day, I'm a crisis counselor. I too am married. I have a 19-year-old son who graduated in 2020, and he's still navigating. He knows what he wants to do, but a lot of that was kind of turned upside down with not just COVID, but also the civil unrest because he had
Oh
wanted to
yeah.
go into law enforcement. And then all that
Mm.
happened. He just said, it's not for me.
Yeah.
So he is an entrepreneur. He started his own business, looking to go to barbering school, and he wants to open up his own barber shop. So just trying to, keep the bumpers on and make certain that he stays on track while also allowing him to move through this pandemic as we continue to fight.
Yeah.
And then I spend, a lot of time caring for my dad. He
Yeah.
resides with my brother, but between the two of us, it's just the two of us. We're taking good care of him.
Yeah. Now you still on the board for the mental health organization? Are you
I
still doing that?
am. Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Sure.
Talk a little bit.
Yes.
Hello. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So I'm actually on the New York. I'm a board member for the Mental Health Association for New York State, and it's a not-for-profit organization where we really look to um, share information, help end the stigma, continue conversations, and actually we have actually helped to implement and push forward with legislation several laws. In fact, New York State, I'm very proud to say, is the first state in the country to make it mandatory for mental health to be covered in middle school and high schools in the curriculum. So that's just one of many things, So
Okay.
I'm committed to that as well.
Yeah, and I know you've had some experience in this space personally, also with the work that you do. I know early on, me, and Lisetta very active in the sorority. I still am.
Yes.
So you're adding that piece on to our life too.
And I'm in school again.
Oh God, Kelly.
I know. So
Yeah,
I'll
God
tell
bless
you
her.
again, the silver lining I always try to say, because I too have my own business. I
Yes.
do educational consulting, life coaching, and personal counseling. But it's something that I wanted to do, but I didn't have the time as an administrator because we worked 12 months. Again, COVID hit. I remember sitting right in this chair, and I felt God say it was time once again.
Amen.
So this time it was, I needed to go back to school, because even though I have my doctorate, my PhD in counseling education, my certification is in school. So for school
Right.
counseling, the need has grown tremendously with the clinical aspect,
Yes.
mental health specifically.
Yes.
So I went back to school starting in the fall. I finished my coursework, so I'm just pushing through to finish up my internship so that I can be a licensed mental health therapist as well.
Good for you. Good for you. I tell you that of late, with the topics and the people I've been talking to, that is, I'm praying about that piece too. I feel like that's a direction that
Yes.
I'm being
Do it.
led to
Good.
as well. So I might be talking to you about that of late.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. And last but not least, my North Carolina bestie. You all have seen her in the Power of Friendships episode and Living Your Dreams episode. And
Mhm.
she's also my one of my advisors, Miss Mindy.
Hey, everybody.
How are
Hello.
you? Thank you for
Good,
joining again, my sister. So let's talk about all the things you are engaged in. And the reason I'm having people talk about this, y'all, because as you hear their stories, I feel like a lot of us probably can relate to the busyness that is our lives, right? And there becomes a point in time where you do have to step back and say, when all these things are coming at you at once, how do you step back and say, okay, I need to take a break, I need to deprioritize, whatever that is. So Mindy, talk about all the things you're engaged in.
Well, by day, I work in the accounting field, but I'm also a documentary producer. I'm a
Wow.
community activist. I volunteer in ministry. And on the side, I'm an awesome wife and mom. So, I mean, at any time, I could be doing any one of those things.
Yeah.
On my lunch break, I might be working on documentary stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Evenings, I might be zooming about some community action that needs to be taken. So it's a busy lifestyle, but I mean, we all have busy lifestyles.
Yeah. And you also are very involved in church as well.
Yes, I
Yeah.
am. Women's ministry, children's
Yeah.
ministry, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I tell y'all, I think I might have been telling Mindy this, or either Kelly. I started writing down all the stuff in which I have been engaged, and I also stepped back and took a look at the times where I had breaking points, because there were times, several times over my lifespan, where I had to stop and pause. Right. So if I think about the first pause, it was, I was working for an investment bank. I was going to grad school, right? I remember on the train, PATH train, through the World Trade Center, going home at 11 o'clock at night and tears coming down my eyes because I was just tired. And if you know anything about the investment banking industry, it's very busy. It's always something going on. But I realized at that point, I was needing a change of pace, right? And literally had gotten my master's degree, had just gotten a promotion, and literally came down to North Carolina, visited Crystal. Those of y'all know Crystal, visited Crystal in December of 2019. February 2020, I was in North Carolina. 2000, I'm sorry, 2019 and then 2000. I was in North Carolina, right? 1999. Oh, God,
99.
years mixed up. 1999, got my degree. 2000, I was in North Carolina, right? So that was like a first breaking point. And we'll talk a little bit more, but there comes a time if I think about what I'm doing now. So, racial sorority, I decided one main committee. One main committee, right? Involved in church, have been involved in a lot of youth ministries in the past. This past year, with everything being virtual, not really having to engage in, youth ministry like we were doing when we were live. So that's sort of been a blessing in disguise. But I decided to go full forward with my business, right? My business on the side. My day job is a senior HR professional, and with that comes craziness, right? With the types of stuff that I deal with on the strategic HR side. But very busy, and then have a sick dad, right, who doesn't live here. So have him, and and I worry about them. My parents are getting older, right? Like all of us are getting older. But with that comes the place where you want to be in both places and be with them, and you realize you can't, and that puts on the additional stress as well. So we all been there. So I'm gonna kick off with our first question, ladies. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you with saying no and setting boundaries? And it could be, you could start with good with the boundaries first, or the no first, or if you want to lump it together, but scale of 1 to 10. So 1 not being good at all, and 10, yep, you got it all together today.
Well, I'll answer. I'm going to say I am really good at setting boundaries.
Okay, good at setting boundaries. Good.
I am. I'm going to say I'm going to give myself a 9 out of 10. And
Ooh.
yes. Okay. And the reason for that is it's work you do the work I've been doing my whole life, but more importantly, when we started, we talked a little bit about who we were. And a lot of my work revolves around working with women of all races and ethnicities whose boundaries have been so violated that they forget to say no. And in my profession as a licensed social worker, it's difficult to talk about boundaries and work with people around setting boundaries if you can't set your own boundaries. So it's like the whole thing about. So for me, it's been a process of becoming aware of that and learning how to do that. And not really, it's not cutting people off or not caring, but caring most about the quality of having good relationships and caring about yourself on a mental, physical, and psychological level. So for me, and it matters less. You're not worried about who likes you or who doesn't like you. It's being around the people that feed you in terms of relationships anyway, and that you feed also. So once I am able to let go of all of those sorts of labels, or like who likes me, who doesn't like me, who am I friends with, who's going to be upset, not that I don't care about people and if they get upset, but it's not the driving force. So it's not hard for me at this point, and, it's okay.
And we'll get into a little bit more about that, Lisetta, but it's funny because when I was thinking about who in my circle is the most calmest person that I know when it comes to, I remember when we were pledging. So Lisetta is my line sister, y'all. Woo-hoo! But I remember even that period. But when I think about just stuff, you really, you kind of let things flow off your back. I mean, you're the most chill person that I know when it comes to that. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on with that balance, because you are, you do it almost effortlessly when I look at it, right? When I see you outside looking in, that's how it feels.
Well, thanks for
So
validating that. That's my sans. I didn't know she thought that. So that's a
yes,
really nice compliment from you, Michelle.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're one of the same ones. Yes.
Yeah. I
That's
tried.
Right. Yeah, but we need that, right? We
Yeah.
all need that person around us who provides that calmness when we're going crazy. So I love that about you, Lucetta. So who wants to go next?
Well, I'll go next since she's the high end. I'm the very low end. I'll say I'm a 3 on that scale
Okay.
because I just don't know how to say no. I feel that I have to be in control of everything. I have to take care of everyone. I'll set a boundary and then guess what? I'll destroy it myself so that I'm making sure that everything is okay. And
Yeah.
so with that, and me not saying no, I'm finding that no is not a healthy no throughout my entire life. Because as we're having a discussion and I'm listening to, I don't know who said it. Was it Kelly or Lucetta? In regards to it was you, Lucetta, saying pleasing people. So all my life, because I was bullied from the age of 3, and some people can't remember things like that, but I can.
Yeah.
And trying to please people, to make people like me in my community, my neighborhood. So if they asked me to do something, I would do it. Like the answer would be no, so that you can like me, you could be my friend. Like you were saying, low self-esteem, those issues. So you don't set boundaries. You let people do whatever they want to do so that you can get that validation of appreciation, of love or friendship. And they really don't care. So I know that I'm at 3. I'm not at a 1, but I know that I was saying I was at a 3. And I just recently started with healthy no. I mean, like literally 7 months ago. Having these discussions with Michelle as life coach, just looking at things and looking at myself in the mirror. What's wrong with me? Why are my children doing this? Why are my employees doing this? Why are the leaders in my organization, doing things? Because Monique is the one who's always going to say, okay, I'll do it. Not setting boundaries, staying up for 12 and 14 hours
Yeah.
in a day, dealing
Yeah.
with my grandchildren and not letting the parents take the responsibility,
Yeah.
and it begins to burn you out. So it's making me sick physically, mentally. I'll say I'm pretty strong because of my faith, but then being involved with church, not ever PTA. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
I'm always raising my hand. I'll do it.
Yeah.
So I'm learning how to do a healthy no now, but I am at that spectrum of number 3 and really barely setting boundaries. I mean, financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally.
Yeah.
And
But we're working on it, Monique. We're working on it.
I'm working on it.
We're working on it. Yeah, you're working on it. Because I think part of too is recognizing where you are.
Yeah.
Right. And the other pieces, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm kind of jumping ahead, but recognizing where you are so that you can get at the crux of the issue and then figuring out, okay, so what has brought you to this point, right? So that you can then start to unravel and figure out, okay, so what do you need to do next? So thank you for your honesty. So we have a 9 and we have a 3. Who's next? Minnie
I'll
Lou.
go next.
Okay.
I'm gonna say I'm at 8, 9.
Okay.
And I think the older that I get, the better that I get at it. I know that I don't intentionally do anything to hurt anybody. So whatever you think of me, I hate to say it this bluntly, but I don't care.
Yeah, I so feel that. Yeah,
I don't, because I'm a good person and I know who I am. and I
Yeah.
know what I'm about. So
Yeah.
I don't mean anybody any harm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, when I listed all the things that I do at the beginning, I really don't have time. I mean, for me, and Michelle really did help me figure out. I I have a lot of things. I'm a very creative thinker. I have a lot of things that I want to do. I mean, and my mind is going all the time. But when I really think about the time that I have to dedicate to that, it's very, very small window, very
Mm-hmm.
small. So I have a lot of things on my plate, period, without me trying to take on anything else. I have a lot going on. I might have a couple of hours a week to spare,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going to make time for my family,
Mhm.
and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
make some time for me. So I'm going to say that I'm at an 8 and a 9, and one phrase that I have incorporated into my vocabulary when people ask me to do something that I know is going to take time and energy, what I've learned to tell myself is consider no first.
Mm.
Mm.
So whenever somebody asks me something, I say to myself, consider no first, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can say, well, let me think about it and let me get back. And but I need to consider saying no right off the jump.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
I know that I can't do that, there's no point in me saying I'm gonna think about it and all that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
I consider no first.
Yeah.
So I have become better at saying no, because I realize I don't have the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mindy. Y'all get into some tip mode and stuff like that. We're gonna dig a little bit more into that as well, but great conversation. So, Dr. Kelly.
So I would say about an 8.5, 9,
Okay.
generally speaking. But I also think sometimes it's situational,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
depending on the person, you know.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Yeah, I think sometimes it depends on the person. Like you've been through enough stuff with that person that
Mm-hmm.
you know how they move, how they
Mm-hmm.
act, very calculating. So you have prepared yourself to respond to their request. Um, and I do think that the question regarding what was the question about saying no and setting boundaries. I
Mm-hmm.
think as you become more comfortable with setting boundaries, then you have less of a struggle with saying no.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Absolutely.
it's a habit. And so
Yeah.
it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I just had to do a presentation to a group on this today. And, it's gotten a lot easier for me. But, I had to be pushed to the limits in many situations. And then I get mad at myself for allowing myself to get so consumed, like, oh. So I look for those telltale signs, or like I said, with certain people, I already know, oh, you know what this is about? The answer is no.
Right.
And seriously, some people you just because they're always going to
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as the ladies mentioned, have already said, you have to get to a point where you are more concerned about yourself and your
Mm-hmm.
well-being than what other
Mm-hmm.
people think. Because if
Mm-hmm.
they really care about you, they're not going to catch an attitude,
Mm-hmm.
dismiss you, write you off. And if they do, honestly, they really are
Mm-hmm.
not worth your time anyway. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
mean to say that in a cold or callous way, but in
Mm-hmm.
actuality, that's us. We're so busy worrying about other people because we're all helpers. We're all,
Mm-hmm.
everyone here. And we
Mm-hmm.
have to get to the point of comfort where we say, I deserve some time too,
Yeah.
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
So,
important,
Yes.
Kelly. And I've been
mhm.
Yeah.
posting some things about that leading up to this conversation. Um, no is a complete sentence,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
right? You don't have
No, it's
to
a
give
loving word.
explanation. It is
yes. I
yeah,
like that. It's
yeah.
a loving
And
word.
you have to love it. Saying no
Mm-hmm.
is a form of loving yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
Because
Mm-hmm.
when you think about where that can take you, if you said yes,
Mm-hmm.
you're giving yourself time, mental time back, emotional time back, right?
Yeah.
So I would say for myself, I'm probably at that 8-9 space as well. But to Mindy's point, I got there later in life.
Oh yeah.
Mhm,
Right.
mhm,
I think time has definitely taught me how to do it. And I know I had a pre-conversation this week with someone, and I was saying, you kind of know when you're in that space.
Yep.
And you
Yeah.
can easily say, I know I can easily say, it's like, you know what? I need to step back. Let me look at what's on my plate and let me reprioritize, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
I know how much I'm going to give. And when I say, look, here's my shirt. I think I was showing my shirt. Nope. No. I'm like, that is like my mantra. It's like, you just got to, because if you don't, you will drive yourself
Yes.
bananas. So when you reflect on men and women, and I'm interested in hearing your points of view around this, because who do you believe are better at saying no and setting boundaries? Men or women in your
Men.
Yeah.
Men. I think because it's acceptable. Like society has put pressure and we have accepted it, but it's something that is taught at a very young age that, we're nurturers, you don't say no, especially in certain cultures, like, but we're family, whether you're blood or not, if you're carrying that title of family, but you're family, you have to. No, we really don't. And sometimes the biggest abusers of that are family.
Yeah. We said a whole lot right there.
You know what, Michelle? Men, I was reading something where a woman was saying that her husband said, I don't feel good, I'm going to bed. And she was like, I can't do that. I just can't just like say I don't feel good, I'm going to bed. Well, how can you do that and I can't do that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I remember
I think it's easier for men.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember a time I was going through, and I don't know what I was dealing with. And I really in my heart wanted to say no. And I remember, and this was someone I was dating, and they were like, well, just tell them. And I'm like, in my head, I'm just like, what do you mean just tell them? I was like, no, I gotta, I just can't tell them no. I mean, I gotta, and they're like, okay, well, you can just keep going like you're going, or you just say no. But you're right. It's a way we've been brought up. I really do feel like some of it is a way, and we're nurturers by, so anytime someone's asking, and when I remember when I was at my highest point, or I should say lowest point in terms of the scale, I don't know. Maybe I thought I was a superwoman. I don't know. If I think back at, and we'll get into this a little bit, where it all began for you. Where did it begin for you? Let's go into that a little bit, because I know I can kind of pinpoint. Go ahead. Listen.
I want to just tune in on your question about men or women, and I honestly would say I don't know. And the reason why I'm saying that is I think it depends, right? I think that women are better at setting boundaries around sexuality, for example, and things like that. Men, not so much. And that's a very general statement. That's very general, because boundaries come in personal, mental, emotional, physical, And so I was kind of like, I really don't know, because I do think that women juggle so much.
Yes.
That while we may not say no, we still have to practice setting boundaries. It's time for the kids to go to bed, or the grandkids, we got to get their lunches fixed. But I don't do that anymore, but back in the day, or whatever it might be. So I was like, I don't really know, because I think women contend with a lot more, again, because of what you said, Michelle, right? Because of how what we all know, how we're raised as women to be nurturers. So I think, I don't know. I'm gonna.
How's Dan?
My opinion is.
How's Dan? Dan's her husband, y'all.
Dan is, I would say, in our relationship, I'm better at setting boundaries, because he, even like in raising our daughter, he would always be a little bit more lenient, believe it or not, than I would be. So that's why, I was like thinking about that. But then I think about growing up, and I had an uncle like Stephen. Oh my God, we were scared of him. He wasn't abusive, but we knew, like, when he put his foot down, that was it. Whereas maybe with my aunt or my mother, we could sort of finagle a little bit, but he
Yeah.
would be like, no, that's it, done, So I think it depends on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
person, the family situation, how you were raised. Because you know that there are a lot of women that are, especially in our community, that are single parents,
Yeah.
and they've kind of have to do everything. So they have to set those boundaries with their kids,
That's
So I
funny.
don't know.
True.
And you
And
can,
you know
and
what?
you get to that point. Go ahead, Kelly.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Sora Lucetta, you made a good point, because I think, and I'm thinking about this because in the presentation I did earlier, there was a
Mhm.
gentleman in the class, and he was saying how hard it is for him as a man and for men in general to say, I need help, or to
Yes.
talk about mental health. And
Yeah.
so I think we do sometimes overlook the fact that, men who are, good men being responsible, they carry a lot of burdens that
Mhm.
we overlook. And
Yeah.
so while we may not acknowledge it, but for them, they may have a very difficult time with setting boundaries. Like, listen, I'm human, I'm overwhelmed.
Yes.
Or can you help me out with the bills? Especially if they're born and raised in a very traditional family or culture. So you're right. I do think in many instances, men may have a difficult time setting boundaries because it's not manly to do.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, I'm 50-50.
50-50.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, in my circle, like I said, my dad,
Yeah.
he's like, he's not doing anything he don't want to do. And I mean, that's
Right.
just how we saw him. My mom was helping everybody, right? Half the time we're like, seriously, mom? Like,
Yeah.
like but she would be tired, but it wouldn't prevent her from doing it. She would be tired, right?
Mhm.
So how this topic came up for me. Did anybody else want to say anything
I
related to
just
this
wanted to
topic?
say something
Go ahead,
really
Mom.
quick, because
Mhm.
my mother says I'm like my grandmother, and my mother is like the rest of you all. She's total 10. She sets boundaries. She is the
Mhm.
one.
Yep.
She can tell you no without a blink of an eye, and so forth. And so, like Lucetta was saying, even though I believe men because my situation, but you do have it where it's either or,
Mhm.
where
Yeah. And they may not ask for help, as you said, and I do believe this, Kelly,
Mhm.
probably last to ask for help.
mm,
The question, is, do they overcommit? And I don't see a
Okay.
lot of them
Right.
overcommitting
That's
like
true.
we will
That's true.
overcommit, right?
Yeah.
So, but like anything,
That's
the
true.
pendulum can go either way. So, when this topic came up, I literally was on my break, because that was my third time that I, decided, I needed a break.
Mhm.
Was earlier in late June, right? So realized I've been going at Real Conversations for a year, been stuck in the house, wanted to go see my parents. I'm an HR strategic partner. I handle restructures, workforce planning, all kinds of stuff. So, everything that's been going on in the world, we've been having to deal with it in the workplace. And I mean, there were literally times when I would be sitting, in this room that I'm in to like 10 o'clock. I mean, like forgetting to stand up, forgetting it's like, oh, did I eat anything today? But and I remember, so the Naomi Osaka situation happened first, right? And I did the Real Conversations with men and mental health with that. But then lo and behold, I'm home, and we had the Shakari Richardson situation, right? Her grandmother passed, and she self-medicated, self-soothed herself, right? And she got knocked to her feet, and she couldn't now, play in the Olympics, right? And then you had Simone Biles, right? But to me, it just was a reminder, and I felt, so when you think about Simone, you think about Naomi, they made me proud because they stood in their truth in terms of they were tired. And they did not want to go further, despite what anybody else might think, right? In terms of their why or what they should have did or shouldn't do. But they did. And it just made me think, how many of us do that? Right? When we are really overwhelmed and we need that break. And sometimes we're so into wanting to prove something to other people, right? And when I think back at growing up, high school, college, I was in that I need to prove myself mode, right? First one to go to college
Mhm.
in my family, first one to work in corporate America, right? First African American officer in the unit where I was where I was working, right? First one to go for my master's degree. So I was steady in this mode of wanting to prove myself constantly that I just took on stuff. Sorority. Lucetta, I was doing everything, right? Held offices. Now I'm at a point I'm like, look, if I never have to hold the office ever again, I'm good because I've been there, done that, right? Don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on how they handle those situations? Anybody? What was your reaction when you
I'll speak.
yeah, go
And
ahead,
we
Kelly.
there's a new an update on Naomi where she recently did an interview, and the caption, the headline was, she walked away in tears. Like
Yeah.
that was the headline.
Yeah.
And the reporter who asked the questions, he prides himself, and actually in his bio that's listed on Twitter, it's something like he pokes at the athletes, and that's celebrated.
Yeah. It shouldn't be. Yeah.
It should not be at all. So, with regards to your question about Simone and Naomi and so many others, Sha'Carri, I think that it's even awful that we have to have a conversation of what do you think about that? We should not even need to have a conversation about how someone feels in a personal decision that they've made.
Yes. Yes.
Again, mental health is still not looked at the same as physical health. If anybody was to come out and say that they were taking a hiatus because of their physical health, let's say, God forbid, cancer, oh my goodness,
Yep.
the response would have been totally different.
Yeah.
And the same people criticizing both of them, I'm sure, have gone somewhere, or even companies have probably donated, the month of May for mental health.
Oh, yeah.
But and really don't, live by what they preach or claim to support. So I feel very bad that they had to get to that heightened level of need and had to go public with announcing it to the world and basically explaining why they needed a break. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
It bothers me that we have to explain ourselves,
Yeah.
right? Because of the color of our skin, and just being transparent about it. It bothers me that we have to explain ourselves.
Yeah.
So they set some boundaries. They did it now. And it's in this day and age where we're at, and I was telling someone this the other day, in our faith walk that we walk in, me being a Christian, we have so many people of different skin colors and so forth. So we shouldn't have to explain anything when we say no, right? Because that's a healthy no. I can't do this. But then when I watched that and I saw that, I thought about myself. Like you said, making barriers. When I moved to my township of Union, I was the only Black family within a 30-block radius. And I had a welcoming committee come to me and say, why are you living over here? My boundaries and to embrace them and, be that person and not set a boundary for them to enter into my personal space. So just going and I have to play a certain role. So it's so important for us to be able, and like I said, 6 months ago, I really realized you got to start learning how to say a healthy no. And that's something, Michelle, when we did have our discussion, and she said, no is, that's a sentence, is a response. We look at Sha'Carri Richardson. I mean, the way that she's running out, she's looking like when Flo Jo first started, the nails and this and so forth. Did she make a right decision? Did she set a boundary for herself? Like you said, who are we to make judgment? And maybe that's probably I'll say one of my flaws of rating as a 3. because sometimes we don't know how to set those
Mhm.
boundaries
Mhm.
because of who we are and who
Mhm.
the world wants to tell us who we
Yeah.
are,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Mo, and
And
that's what I
Yeah.
thought about with her,
Mhm.
in particular, right? She was dealing with her death, and so the what ends up happening when you don't. So she's a perfect example of what happens when you don't set boundaries,
mhm,
right?
Mhm.
You tend to go in a direction where either self-soothing or you're doing
Mhm.
something that becomes unhealthy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because we haven't recognized the fact that we're in that space where we have burnt out or emotionally tapped, whatever you want to call it, right? And
Yeah.
we keep going thinking we're okay, and we're not okay,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right?
But I want to weigh in because what I want to say about this is I like what Kelly said and Monique, because I have nothing but respect and admiration for those two
Oh
women.
yeah.
First of all, to do what they do at the level that they do it. I personally feel
Mhm.
like I have no business even making any judgment about how
Yeah.
they
mhm,
handle their
mhm.
situation, because I realize even after I know how people can get to moments of where you just crash. You're
Yes.
going and going and going. And I realized that well, I wouldn't say I crashed, but after George Floyd was killed, and I
Mm.
was sitting at a meeting with a lot of colleagues, very few people of color,
Mhm.
and I'm in this coalition. It's a coalition meeting where we're doing social justice work, and not one person brought up George Floyd's death in the meeting. And I finally said,
Yep.
I am sick and tired
Hmm.
of Black people, and specifically Black men, getting killed. And then I got a couple of support, people
Mhm.
spoke up, but that was right when it happened. And that was my crash. I was like, I'm done. I needed to step back from certain meetings, certain spaces, and I didn't say anything, but it was an internal decision where I
Mhm.
need to,
Mhm.
there's so much going on, all the unrest, George Floyd getting killed, and just not feeling like I had anything more to give
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah.
around those issues. I'm no Simone or Shakari, but it's sort of where you're just pushing out things and you're under pressure and everyone's looking at you. And so they did what they needed to do.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I mean, I don't smoke marijuana, but actually it's legal in a lot of states. It's
Yes.
no different than
Yes.
alcohol. And I'm not
Yeah.
here
Yes.
to make any judgment about that. So there's a whole, if anything, you could say, okay, she didn't know because, shouldn't
Mhm.
have done it because it's against the rules. But there's a lot of debate that could be made about that. But
Yeah.
at the end of
Yeah.
the day,
Yeah.
Simone, kudos to her. Good for her. That's
Yeah.
healthy. It's healthy
Yeah.
that she said, I can't do this and I need to
Yeah.
step back. So I just wanted to weigh in on that because I think so
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
people have different, things that they're saying. No one can walk in those ladies' shoes
No, you
Right.
except
can't.
themselves,
You can't. And the reason I brought their names up because again,
Yeah.
they got to a point where, and it was so public, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times our stuff is not as public,
Yeah,
Right.
right?
That's
exactly.
right.
Definitely not on the platform of theirs,
Right.
right?
No,
Yeah.
no.
But yet, they made a choice, and it was a choice that they had to make for themselves, whatever it is. And I
Absolutely.
don't even care what it was that they were doing, but they made a conscious choice to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we just have to ask ourselves, why don't we do it as much? Mindy, did you want to say anything about this
Yeah.
question? Yeah.
I think for Simone and Naomi, their decisions were a lesson to us on defying other people's expectations, because I think people have this expectation of them of you need to be grateful.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Mm-hmm.
need to do those interviews and be grateful that you're where you are, and that's the least you can do. And you need to you're in the Olympics, so you need to go on and do this because you're here. Because if you remember back in 96, there was a young lady that was a gymnast that
Mm-hmm.
broke her ankle
I
Mm-hmm.
saw that. Yeah.
in her
Mm-hmm.
first vault jump.
Yep.
And
And she,
then they pushed her
yep.
to do that second jump. And she did it. and I think America won a gold medal from that.
Mhm.
They did.
I
Yeah.
mean, the expectation is for you to, even
Keep
though
going.
your ankle is broke,
Right.
even though you're mentally drained, that you should still do it. So because it's expected of you. And so I think, you know, they taught us a lesson
Yeah.
that people's expectations
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be followed. You don't have to do these things that are the norm, that are expected,
Mhm.
that we wrote out for you to do. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So you really have to think
Mm-hmm.
about where, where you are, what you need, what's breaking you down, because them women were
Yeah.
being broke down.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
were.
Mentally broke
They
down.
were. They were.
And so you have to think about all that and consider that. And sometimes you got to step outside those lines.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
So speaking of them, what was the event that caused you to step back and say, when you think about, if you think back at when you were at your worst from a from this point of knowing setting boundaries, what was it that got you to say, you know what, I need to do something different? Who wants to go first?
Well, it was when I was well, when COVID came. Well, actually before that, a little bit before that, got into I was, well, been in management, but teaching, taking care of my grandchildren. The bad thing was that they let us start working home remotely.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So when you're working remotely,
You never
everyone
stop.
thinks that you're on vacation, but
Right.
you're working. And
Mhm.
then taking on responsibilities because I want to make sure that my grandchildren are, flowing correctly. Excuse me, my youngest son, he's still in school, taking care of the things with my job and just taking on everything, volunteering for PTA, taking on things for church, missionaries, pastor's aid, uh, doing things, like I said, with the youth choir, then with my job, teaching, coaching, mentoring people. Then you got to do the things for your home, and where was time for myself? And then on top of that, my brother, uh, uh, he's dealing with some things. My mom needs help, just to come out and to assist with my family members. And I just was like, I'm going nuts. I'm losing my mind right at this point. How do I say no? I need to say
Yeah.
no because I want to make sure everybody is taken care of. And again, like I said, I was working 10 and 12 hours, trying to make sure everything works together. Even
Hmm.
when I was away teaching in different parts of the state, I'm still doing things and not setting boundaries
Mm-hmm.
for myself to say, okay, no, because I have to focus. I need to concentrate on this. Um, Maybe it's part of the fact that because I was abused
Mm.
younger, mentally, uh, always being picked on. And I thought about that. When did it really start? Maybe started when I was in kindergarten, and the
Mm.
little girl told me, and I'm being transparent here. It's going to be in my book anyway when I finish writing it. But she told
Hey,
me
girl,
take
tell
your
your
dress.
story.
Yeah, go to the restroom, and I'm leaving to go to the restroom, and the little fourth grade girl tells you take your dress off. Oh, okay. Not thinking, not setting a boundary of anything of no, I'm not supposed to, but because she's like, I like that dress, take that dress off.
Oh.
Mm.
Aiming to try to please somebody,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
constantly, and then always forgiving. Oh, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
Mm-hmm.
worry about it. I said no, and they get upset, and you're like, oh my God, I don't want them to be upset. I need peace, so forth. But
Hmm.
after a while, you have to know um, when to say no, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else that I'll tell my story in a minute. But anyone else?
I was actually reflecting on this, and for me, it's not like a one event. I feel like it's it's always for me, it's always evaluating. Getting asked to serve on a committee, or like you said, to be a board president, or to participate in a this or that, and it's ongoing, where it's sort of, I'm constantly going, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but I can't do this. So it's not, to me, it's not an event. It's more, it's a daily, for me anyway, at this point in my life, it's more like I'm always being faced with that decision.
Yes.
You're always being asked to do, I'm always being asked to do something else, but for me, what helps me is when I feel like I'm out of alignment. Like, what I mean by that is, I work out. I need to go to the gym or work out at my home. So if I'm finding that it's like I'm working all the time, or I'm going to this meeting or that meeting, and I didn't make it to work out today, or I don't have time to read a book, those types of things. When I'm finding like the things that I like to do that feed me, like we were talking about, I'm not doing them, then I'm out of alignment. And to me, that's when I'm saying no. I like to try to just stay in alignment. I'm working, I'm participating in the causes that are important to me. But then, before I know it, I could be working like Monique, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, especially during COVID, sitting at this same desk, and then, and so on. So it's really,
that's a trigger. It's a trigger
when I'm out of alignment. It's like, I'm not, I didn't even go for a walk today. I didn't even get to go, to the bathroom, that type of stuff.
Right.
So it's like not a one event.
Yeah.
Now it's more sort of, what's the trigger now? I'm out of alignment, or I'm not eating properly, things like that.
And I do think, and I think Mindy mentioned it earlier, I think as we've gotten older, we can see those things. I mean, I'll tell you, and I'll be transparent. I know, again, I think my first mental break was on that train going, and it's like, shoot, Michelle, you're in grad school, you're doing this, you're doing that, The second time, and Mindy, you might remember this, I had to take a leave of absence from work. And it was a lot of stuff going on. I was in a funky situation at work. And then I was also planning for my marriage. And I remember talking to the employee health and Kelly, you mentioned this a little bit. I remember talking to my employee health person, and she's like, Michelle, you guys are doing a lot in HR. You need to take care of you.
Yeah.
Right. And that was my first trigger that it was a bigger issue than I was allowing myself to recognize back when I was in grad school. Right. Because again, like everything else, I'm still moving. Right. I'm still going to go. I'm just going to quit my job. I'm going to move. And I was fine. And that was good. When I came here, I was great. Right. But then that point came again, and it wasn't until it kind of hit me physically. I mean, I was tired.
Yeah.
And in tears, even more so than I was back then. And I would, and I was at that point where I was saying, do I quit again? I mean, I was really at that point, right? Because I recognized the first time that happened, right? I just said deuces. I didn't have a job when I moved here. I'm like, deuces. I'm moving, and I was here. But at that point, I'm like, Michelle, you need rest. And it's okay to do just that. Right. And now when I find myself in that space, like I said, couple of weeks ago, it was just like, I need to take a break.
Yep.
Right.
Good. Yeah.
I need to do it.
Yeah.
So anybody else want to talk about their aha?
I'll speak. And like Kelly. You, Sarah Michelle, mine was like a two-step or two-leveled. So in my 20s, not a lot of people know about this, but I was in a unhealthy, bad relationship. It was just something that, we're fixers. How could this happen?
Yeah.
Typical unhealthy relationship. And so we either explode by releasing that pain, that hurt, or we implode within. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I struggled with depression to the point where I just couldn't believe that I internalized everything and thought it was all me, you know? And so it got to the point where I didn't believe in myself. I didn't love myself, and I didn't even want to live. And I was hospitalized. And, you know, even when I got out, I struggled. And I just remember just praying to God that if he just gave me the strength to want to live and to get through 5 minutes, an hour, a day, that I would, I made a promise to him first, and then to myself and to my family, you know, my loved ones, that I would move forward and use that as a platform. I just never thought it would be this type of platform.
Yeah.
So, you know, fast forward, you know, when my mom passed, I knew I had to, you know, continue the legacy like her, which is holding things together, at least for my, you know, my immediate family, my father and my brother, and then my son, who was so close to her. So I knew that I needed to get through and be strong, but I knew that I didn't ever want to get to that breaking point again of not wanting to live. So that's when I said to myself that I was going to do whatever I had to do to maintain balance in my life. And I really think that's when I really went, I forged ahead with making certain that there was no question about, well, I really don't want to do it, but I don't want to upset anybody. You know, I had to put myself first. So that's like, it was 2 level for me. So reflecting, not being ashamed of my past, you know, using it to help others who are not able, because I get it. It's not very comfortable. I mean, we see with these celebrities, these athletes who are still condemned when they're crying out for help and speaking that they're so fragile. So, you know, I just feel that I know why God allowed, now, he didn't put me in that situation, but he pulled me through that situation so that I can then share it with others who may be struggling. And a lot of people have said, wow, I would have never known, but thank you for sharing, because it gives me hope, encourage that I'm going to be okay. So because of that, I set boundaries. And I say no.
Thank you. Thank you for being very transparent, Kelly. And this is why, you know, I have this platform, y'all. I have this platform because I really do feel like through the stories that people share, there's someone out there who all of your stories is going to resonate. It's going to resonate with them, right? And my hope is, you know, they're here the stories, and we'll talk in a few minutes about what you now do to set boundaries, right? But Mindy, did you want to share anything in that space?
No, I'm pretty much like Lucetta. I think this is a constant thing. I think that for me, whenever my spirit is lowly, or when I can just feel in my spirit that something's on me, I'm down, you know, something's out of balance. And that's when I realize I have to get myself back on track. And for me, that's normally spending more time with the Lord. Just normally getting up, praying, meditating, Bible study, talking to him, really, really talking to him, and really, really giving him things. You know how the word says, cast your cares. But I mean, for me, that's a process. It's not just me saying that I gave it to God. It's me. I go through a ritual. I write things down on a piece of paper. I pray over those things, but I you know, I say this is my last time praying over this. And then I'm giving it to him, and then I have to leave it alone. And so for me, it's a constant. I think we always need to be evaluating ourselves and making sure that we're okay.
I love, Mindy, I love how you said your spirit. I just want to say one quick thing about the spirit feeling low, because we all have that thing where we know when things aren't right within our soul. And then that's what causes us sometimes to be out of alignment, because we don't pay attention to it. So I just kind of want, because that really resonates. It's true. You kind of know when things aren't right, you know, but we don't always do something about it, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
And let's
yeah.
and Mindy already started talking about what do you
Yeah.
do, right? So what do
Yeah.
you do when you're in that space? And I think for me, I literally because I can get into that mode of being a workaholic,
Yep.
right? And that's exactly what I did during pandemic,
Mhm,
right? I mean,
mhm,
there were
mhm.
people saying, "Oh yeah, I painted my whole house and I did the closets," and I'm like, "What the hell am I doing?" I'm like, "What in the world?" I'm like, "How did you do all that? Like, what did you do?" Right? But really, they were taking they were balancing and taking
Yes.
their time, and me,
Mhm.
I just went in even more,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But I tell you now, for me, what I do, I literally step
Mhm.
away. And I knew in June, as I was preparing for the July episode. So it's funny because I said, "Oh, I'm gonna take August off." I did step away, and I needed to step away. So I gave myself enough time where I wasn't posting as much. I wasn't doing, and that was for me. That helped me out so much because I was constantly going, getting up 6 o'clock in the morning. Now I know I can schedule the posts and things like that. But literally, I was going. So I literally will take time and just say, I'm not doing anything. At work, I do the same thing on my calendar.
Mhm.
I just block time and I'm like, this is my time to just do and catch up on stuff I need to
Mhm.
do so I don't burn myself out.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
But really taking a break. And I think the other thing for me is, and I started doing it now that we're back, really engaging with people who I really feel like I need to spend time with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
So I started, I try to do that once a week, whether it's a
Yeah.
phone call
Yeah.
or something, just to not talk about work, not talk about, really just reconnect with people.
Yep.
Right. And doing that in a safe way. So anyone else, ritual, what do you do in terms of
Well,
setting boundaries? What do you
listening to that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mo.
Listening to that, I do go into, I call it my turtle stage.
Mhm.
And what I do is take the time because I'm constantly giving out. So I go back to the scripture of the oil and you got to pour the oil back into you. As
Yes.
Mindy was
Yes.
saying, just having that time with the Father. So I call it my turtle stage. I don't talk to anybody. I don't answer the phone now. I even turn off my cell phone
Yes.
after 10 o'clock. So if
Mhm.
you
Me
don't
too.
get me, if it's an emergency, you're gonna call my house number,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
otherwise, I'm not looking at no face. I'm not looking at anything, and I'm taking time. And what I've done is I've done a healthy challenge. So now I'm riding a bike. I go walking. Yes, I'm
Mhm.
loving the bike thing. I got an adult tricycle. I'm so excited. And just taking time for me. If I want to do something because of what I've gone through, not knowing how to say no. They would give me the worst employees. I retired because of that. I was
Oh
like,
my
You
I'm
being a
out of
God.
fixer.
here.
You would have fixed her, Monique. You would have
Yes,
fixed her.
I fixed everything and I just like I'm out of here. So now I'm taking time for me. If I want to do something like I want to spend more time with my family, but when I do, I have to help them with certain things. But I want to go and be a little comic relief for them because I want to be a comedian when I grow up, right? um, and just to be able to say I'm doing this because this is what I want to do. If I don't want to do it, I'm going to say no, I can't.
Yeah.
I had
Mhm.
one situation where I did say yes, and I'm like, ugh. But I learned from that. Okay, my son got married,
Mm-hmm.
and he came to me at the last minute, and I'm like, what the heaven to Betsy's, you know? And I wanted to say no, but I couldn't say no because I knew what was all entailed. But afterwards, I thought about it. I cried about it because I took away something from me. I wanted to
Yeah.
purchase my car. I was going to get my little BMW. I was all excited. But then I took that, and instead of giving a healthy no with a boundary, I did it. Even though everything turned out wonderful and beautiful, and I know that God is in the midst of it. But sometimes you just got to know how to say no because what happened? I tried to fix it. I tried to take control, And one of the minister's friends, because I called, I have never been like this in over 15 years. And one of my friends, I called her because, she doesn't know anything. And she said the Lord told her, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but you're an enabler. You have to know how to say no.
Yes,
You have
Monique.
you have to know how to say no sometimes, and it's going to make them stronger. Because
Yeah.
you're talking about you're an eagle and you're feeding your birds, but when you throw them out the nest, you're trying to dive down and pick them back up. So
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
you have to
That
know
enabling
when.
spirit is one of
Yes,
those things that
yes,
causes a lot of us
Mhm,
to, right? You
mhm.
don't want to, you want to be there, right? And I know
hmm
I have all of you have kids, but I've heard that a lot,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's what's your boundary in terms of that, right? So,
And
anyone else?
kids will take you there.
Yes.
Children will take you all the way there. I mean,
Yeah.
you really, those times when I have been the most stressed, it has been my adult children that have stressed me out. But I did want to say that one of the things that I have started doing, I don't really have an opportunity. My husband is working a couple of jobs, and then I have an 11-year-old as well.
wow.
And so I really don't have time. It's hard for me to find time, to do things for myself. So what I started doing was using my vacation days.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
what I do is when I know my husband isn't going to be here, and I know my child is going to be in school, I take
Yes.
a vacation day. And so the very last time that I did it, me and Michelle,
Yes.
we went to lunch, we got our nails done, and we went to get massages.
Mm-hmm.
Good
So
for
hmm
I
you.
mean, I have the leave. I have an abundance of leave,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I get like um, 18 hours of vacation leave every month. So
Wow.
I
It's
can
pretty
take
good.
1 or 2 days
Yeah.
Yeah.
and just have
Yeah.
some time to myself to
You
just
gotta do that
care
time
for
for
myself.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I have a room that I go to, and this is typically, this was I used to call it my meditation room that's now turned into my studio. But even but I will come in here, just turn everything off and just
Mhm,
sit
Mm-hmm.
and just meditate,
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, I'm not reading anything, I'm just quiet. Right. And even, that 10-15 minutes of just doing that just gives me so much energy. We gotta do things that are gonna fuel us
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
keep us moving,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because if we don't, it will happen automatically. We're not gonna have a
Right.
choice,
Right.
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's the extreme side of all of this. If you don't do what you need to do, you will be sat down immediately where you're going to be forced to do it,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, ladies, last question. What advice would you give to other women who've had a hard time saying no and setting boundaries? And I want us to also focus on our younger women because, like I said, I think all of us
Mhm.
started feeling inklings of this when we were younger,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
what advice would you give?
Just do it.
Just do
You
it.
just, you
Just
just,
do it.
it's uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable, but the
Mhm.
longer you put it off, the harder it's going to be. And honestly speaking, you have to, it's got to be developed into a habit. And that's going
Yes.
to
Mhm.
happen through practice and over time. And I
Yeah.
have personally found it does get easier, but
Mm-hmm.
the
Yes.
more you do it, the more you
Yeah.
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
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 And there are kind ways to say no.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are kind ways to say thank you so much for considering me for
Right.
that. Um, but I don't have time, or I can't take it at that pay, but I do know someone else that I can refer
Mm-hmm.
you to that might accept that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There are nice ways to say no, and
Mm-hmm.
and and, and like Kelly said, it gets easier. I mean,
It does. It
consider
does.
no first. If you already know, just consider no first.
Yeah.
And Mindy,
I
that
like
is a
that.
key point that I'm going to take with me
Me too.
because I thought about that as soon as you said it. I was like, yes, because so often we already know we don't want to do it for
Yeah.
whatever reason, but we find ourselves saying, "Ooh, I don't want to," well, you know what? Let me see if I can do that. I'll let you know. And then 5 days later, you're stressing because you then have to
Yes.
follow up and you're like, oh man, how am I going to say this? So I like that. No, just
Good.
from the
Yeah. And look, guys, you don't have to give an explanation.
right.
Yeah.
You don't owe an
Yeah.
explanation to anybody.
And that's our problem. Well, I know that's my problem. I have to
Yeah.
explain
Yes.
why I
No.
can't just
Yeah.
no. No is the answer. Final answer.
Yeah.
I think
My
the other
advice,
piece
I
I
want to
would
say
say.
something. The advice
Go
to
ahead,
me
Lucetta.
for the younger ladies, I would say, think about all the areas of your life, right? Your
Mhm.
relationships with your friends, your relationship with your spiritual relationship, your I don't know, boyfriend, girlfriend, your work, and think about sort of how are you feeling about those?
Mhm.
Are there things that you're agreeing to
Mhm.
that you don't want to agree to, but you're saying yes? What are the things that are
Mhm.
important to you as a person and in your life? Because I
Mhm.
think if you're coming from that centered place of your own desires, again, not being selfish, but really tuning into yourself, that would be my advice: is listen to yourself.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
what
Yeah.
that, because it goes back to what Mindy said, and when I said, oh, I really like that, because it's sort of reflecting on your inner voice, your heart is telling you what you need to do. So listen to that, tune into that, because that
Yeah.
is also when we get out of alignment, because
Yeah.
we're not sort of paying attention to our own advice that we're giving to
Mhm.
ourselves, or our relationship
Mhm.
with ourselves, where we
Mhm.
know, like, I'm going to say yes because I don't want to look bad. I don't want to let anyone down. I don't, all the things. So try to filter those out, or
Yeah.
be aware of those,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and then make your decision from a place of, yes, this feels right for me. And it's
Yeah.
hard when we've all talked about how we're all sort of getting that age where it's easy. It's
It
easier.
sure
It's
is.
gotten
Right.
easier. But
You
yes, but we want to encourage our young ladies and girls to not wait long,
Right.
but start
Yeah.
I
now.
do, but think
So
about the
start
older
listening to
people. The
yourself.
older
Yeah.
people are like, no, I ain't doing it.
It's
It's like,
true.
no.
Yeah.
But you have
Yeah.
these, and
They're
I look
just
at it.
like, Mindy, you
Yeah.
talk about your mom. I know I talk about my mom. It's like, nope,
Yes.
Yeah.
ain't
Yes.
doing it. They're just not.
Mhm.
I would say
Right.
the other
Yeah.
thing just to remember is you're not going to please everybody, y'all.
Right.
You just
Right.
not. No matter how hard you try, there's going to be
Mhm.
that one person who is not going to be happy,
Yeah.
and you got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
I think you have to
Yeah.
know yourself,
Yep.
listen to those signs, because we have that gut reaction, Mindy, as you said, in your heart is like, nah, I really don't want to do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
almost convince yourself in terms of why you should do it, right? And
Yeah.
if you can't convince yourself in terms of why you should do it, then
Yeah.
you should just say
Yeah.
Mhm.
no.
I
Yeah.
would just, don't ignore that little inner voice, because
Yes.
you know, yeah.
Yes.
Especially for our young girls, because I know my
Mhm.
granddaughter's 13, so she's at that coming of age now.
Yes. Yes.
She's between a little girl, but yet I'm trying to be a big girl.
Mhm.
And so just listening to that, if you can't speak to your parents, because parents will tell you certain things, and some parents, just may not give you the right advice, right? We're
Yeah.
blessed to have that, but you have some situations where some kids don't. Go to somebody that you can trust, like
Yes.
the school
Mhm.
counselor, a
Mhm.
trusted neighbor or something, especially for our young women and our young girls, because they're put in such precarious places, and our young men as well, because just the way that the world is going. But something that's just been streaming with me is that it's taboo if we try to reject things and say no, but it makes you stronger.
Mhm.
if you do it with a healthy no, and
Yes.
you have a good supportive support system. So if
Yeah.
there's anyone young on this, I would say if you can't talk to your parents, you can't talk to your family members, go to a trusted
Mhm.
uh, person, member that, like Lisetta said, you have that inner feeling, reach out to that and they will help you. Don't be afraid. I mean,
Mhm.
we never want to get anyone in trouble or certain things, but there's just some things that you have to say a healthy no to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I could say that for myself when I was younger,
Mhm.
being in those shoes as a young person, being pushed down the hill, bullied. I'm just thinking about, like you said, Lisetta, Mindy, Kelly, Michelle. It's just a snowball effect of different
Mhm.
things, and it's all
Yeah.
about loving ourselves and loving who we are and who God has created us to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and
Right.
so that's
Right.
that's just
That's perfect.
what I want
Loving
to say.
Right.
yourself enough, loving yourself enough to say, I'm going to say no,
Hmm.
Yeah.
right? For your own sanity, for your
Yes.
mental
Yes.
health,
Yes.
spiritual health, physical health. And on that note, ladies, I'm going to put you guys in the green room while I sign off.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your words of wisdom. I knew I brought the
Thank
right people
you.
on for this.
Thank
Michelle,
I
you.
thank
appreciate
you.
that.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Michelle.
Yeah, this is
Love
an
you.
important
Yeah.
topic, right?
Mhm.
So let me put you in the green room. Make sure I don't cut you off. No, make sure I don't cut my own self off. Okay. So y'all, I hope you got something from this conversation. Like I said, I was inspired to do this just actually coming from some young people, right? Who got it right. When I think about Simone and Naomi, and thought this was an important topic for us to tackle. What I will tell you is, and I don't know if I talked about my background, I am a master certified life coach. I'm also an executive and career coach. And I am going to be offering, because I know this is a topic that a lot of women struggle with for sure. And so I want to offer a coaching circle around this, and I'll put out some information on it. But if this is an area that you really struggle with yourself, I'm going to offer a free Zoom call for you guys to get on. And then I have a tool that I can work with you with to help you kind of go through this process of just evaluating, where are the barriers, where are you getting stuck? And let's do this together, right? So if I have a group of women, we'll do it. And there'll be a cost associated to it. But again, the first call, let's just get on, let's just talk about it. Right. And then I'll walk you through the tool. So if you are interested and you want to continue, then I'll tell you about the coaching circle and what it will entail. Okay. This is important. Let's get our lives back, ladies. Let's get to a healthy no and be okay with it. And on that note, take care. I do have real conversations in September. I'm going to come reconfirm, but I want to introduce two women who are very near and dear to my heart. There's a lot of people who have been stepping into this podcasting space, as well as authors. So I have two people who I want to bring to you. So it has more of a career spin to it. But these women have done it well. One has written eight or nine books. And the other person is a coach herself, and has a podcast and has been doing this for years. She's been in this space for years. So if you know someone who is interested in all things podcasting and someone who's interested in writing a book, bringing these women to you to talk about their experiences and provide some tips. So on that note, have a good evening. Have a good rest of your week. Have a good weekend. Bye.